Well, the power utility Eskom says COP29 presents an opportunity to draw some lessons from other international companies that could help implement large-scale renewable energy projects in South Africa. Eskom's general manager responsible for the just energy transition, Vikesh Rajbol, says they will ensure that all renewable energy projects are implemented in a way that won't affect our economy. Newzroom Afrika's Mweli Masilela is at the COP conference, the Conference of Parties, currently underway in Baku in Azerbaijan. And Mweli, good morning to you there. What's the latest? How prepared are we to move from fossil fuels to renewable energies on a larger scale?
Stephen, as you can see, this is a very busy venue. It's about 30,000 participants from different countries continuing attending panel discussions here on the issue of the movement or the transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And South Africa is also one of those countries that are participating in this conference. Yesterday, Stephen, we got an opportunity to speak to the chief negotiator, Masilela, who is actually one of those delegates that are engaging in high-level discussions here with counterparts from different countries. But what we got from the interview we had with him is that they are not happy at the present moment with the way these discussions are going, mainly because, Stephen, this summit is dubbed as the Climate Finance Conference, and at the present moment there are no agreements in as far as the finance, especially of developing countries in this case, to ensure that they mitigate and also adapt to climate change. Those finances are not coming out. Those wealthy countries are not coming with figures as to how much are they going to make available. But also, just behind me on this passage, even yesterday we saw some climate change activists protesting to say that they are frustrated also by these delays, that developed countries should come to the party and ensure that those funds are made available. But of course, Stephen, that's not distracting the South African delegation from drawing some lessons from some other countries in as far as entities like Eskom are concerned. We spoke to Vikesh Rajbol about what South Africa has learned so far in this particular conference, and for sure they are saying that South Africa is prepared to implement large-scale renewable energy projects, and of course the information and knowledge that is being shared here will greatly assist South Africa. Let's just take a listen to what he had to say.
We have a just energy transition strategy that's been approved by our board that speaks to decoupling our station operations from our JET initiatives, what we call repurposing and repowering. And what that means is that independent of station operations, we will implement initiatives to ensure that there is a continuation of economic activity at the power stations that we shut down. We are exploring large-scale renewables at these sites. In addition to large-scale renewables across the country, we have a transmission development plan that we are executing as well that will allow for more renewables to come online from Eskom as well as, importantly, from independent power producers. But from a JET perspective, our focus is on economic diversification to ensure that there is a continuation of economic activity when these production units eventually do come offline.
So, Stephen, that's the general manager responsible for just transition at Eskom. Another issue that he touched on, he said that they have to be responsible as the country tries to move from fossil fuels to renewable energy, and making an example about the case of the Komati power station, which was decommissioned in 2022, that at the end of the day, not everyone was happy with the manner in which that process was handled, and emphasizing that going into the future, they will make sure that there is that greater community engagement, and also make sure that as much as there are those changes, economic activity remains there. Let's just take a listen.
We understand the impact of our power station and our operations on communities as well as on the planet. So bearing that in mind, we are also cognizant of the energy crisis that we face as a country. So we are not shutting down our plants prematurely. We are not shutting down power stations because we are being given funding to do that, right? Our strategy is that we continue to operate these power plants, and while doing that, while we operate those plants with a defined end date, we implement initiatives to allow us to have, as I mentioned, continuation of economic activity. So our driver is not from driven by anybody other than what's in the country's best interest. And the country's best interest is to ensure that we have security of supply, ensure that energy is affordable and that we all have access to energy, and importantly to ensure that our energy is sustainable and that the country is sustainable as well.
So, Stephen, with just only 2 days left for this conference to conclude, those participating here are actually hoping that at the end of the day there will be a solid agreement on finance. And we heard even yesterday from the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres when he was speaking to the leaders of the G20 countries, emphasizing that they must instruct their ministers as well as negotiators to ensure that they come up with that climate finance deal. So we'll continue monitoring the situation here and engaging in terms of visiting some of those panel discussions to hear from business leaders, government leaders, as well as civil society. Stephen.
Mweli, Masilela, thanks very much indeed. Really do appreciate that update.